Welcome back, everybody. We are here to review some footage. So this one is an event that I did not attend. So all the footage today is taken by my friend who attended the event, and that is Dave Marino. He supplies us with all of the footage from like Cardboard Classics and Enter the Battlefield New Market now. So we have on player one side Fernando playing Burn, masking all of his stuff in Megumin skins. And his opponent is someone we've had on before, and it's Caleb. So Caleb is playing 4-color beans today. Fernando is playing Burn. Caleb started the game off with an island and a ponder. Fernando responded back on his turn with a mountain and 2 monastery Swiftspear, attacking for 1, bringing Caleb down to 19. Caleb is going to draw for his turn, then he plays a flooded strand, cracks it for his land for the turn, and we'll see what he's going to get. So Caleb is going to be quite familiar with this matchup. He did play Burn in the last event that was featured on this channel, which is the Invitational. And ever since I'm pretty sure he's been playing some version or some variant of Beans. So we're going to see him crack the Flooded Strand for a Plains. Going to Ponder once again. Looks like there's an Uro. That looks like a Triumph of St. Catherine. So Triumph of St. Catherine is probably going to be Fernando, the bane of Fernando's existence in this matchup. It's just such an efficient threat that has lifelink, and he has to deal with it immediately. And it is quite a huge body, so it's going to take several spells from Fernando to get rid of it and prevent Caleb from getting that natural life gain. Not to mention the Uro by itself is also a pretty big detriment to Burn. As we all know, Caleb went up against... Actually, we've seen this matchup before, except Caleb was in the Burn seat. So he knows how strong just a single cast of Uro can be. So here's Fernando going to drop a mountain and play a Lava Spike, trigger the Monastery Swiftspear, making it a 2-3. Brings Caleb down to 15 from the Lava Spike. Going to see a Rift Bolt suspended. Use a Megumin to remind ourselves on the upkeep. Going to attack for 2. Bring Caleb down to 13. There's a Triumph of St. Catherine right off the top as a miracle trigger. I'm going to cast it. Let's see. So it's fully resolved. Caleb going to drop down a Tropical Island for the turn. And now he's just pretty much sitting comfortably. Riftbolt looks like it's going to Caleb's face. That kind of signals that Fernando doesn't really have another burn spell. Otherwise, I would have probably directed it at the Triumph. Monastery Swiftspear going to trigger from Prowess. Going to be a 2-3 for this turn. I think Fernando drew a Mountain for the turn. And now he's in the tank. Maybe he does have another burn spell and he's kind of just thinking that he might have jumped the gun and pointed it at Caleb's face. Okay, there's another Mountain for the turn. I'm curious because even if... I don't think Caleb would be incentivized to to block the Swiftspear. Because if you're going to Riftbolt the Triumph and then swing, you might as well just take the 2 points of damage and just let the Triumph survive, because the life gain that it offers is just way more crucial than your current life, because the Triumph is going to gain you, because of its stats, I'm pretty sure it's like a 4-5 or a 5-5. Because of the stats, you're just going to be gaining way more life than Fernando can deal. Is that a Chain Lightning? I'm pretty sure Chain Lightning can go to any target, so I'm surprised that Fernando didn't Riftbolt Chain Lightning the Triumph. I mean, he might be scared that there's a counter spell, but taking a counter spell like a Force of Will or something out of Caleb's hand. Wow, he's bolting the Triumph now. This is a little bit too late. There's no way Caleb is gonna block. The Monastery Swiftspear is only a 3-4. If Caleb just goes down to 7, he can regain all of that life back and then some on his turn when he swings. That was kind of just a wasted 3 damage, I think. There's another suspended Riftbolt. Yeah, that was very questionable play from Fernando. Caleb gonna swing with his Triumph of St. Catherine, gonna go and gain 5 life. Fernando going to drop down to 14. And there's an Uro from Caleb. He's going to enter the battlefield. He's going to gain 3 life, go up to 15, draw a card, and gets to play an extra land if he has one. Does draw the Flooded Strand off of the Uro. Yep, and Uro gets sacrificed. There's the land for turn. It is a Tundra. And I think we're going to see an Up the Beanstalk. There's a Tropical Island from Caleb by cracking the Flooded Strand. Up the Beanstalk. Caleb going to draw another card. And it's a Scalding Tarn. Fernando going to untap. Looks like he's going to go face again. I think Caleb took 1 extra point of damage. He should be... I thought he was at 15. He should be at 12. Fernando is going to crack a Wooded Foothills for his turn. Go down to 13. Finds another mountain. I wonder why you typically... Do burn decks typically play fetch lands? I wonder why. Okay, there's a Magus of the Moon. It's also a bit too late. So we're going to swing in for 2 because of the Rift Bolt. Did I miss something? Maybe we didn't count a fetch land from Caleb. But Caleb going to swing in for 5 with the Triumph of St. Catherine. Going to go up to 14. I think we did miss the Flooded Strand, and that's why Caleb did 4 instead of 3 with the Rift Bolt. But we will see. Caleb deep in the tank here. Looks like he has a Mystic Sanctuary. We know that he has a Brainstorm as well. No, this is Fernando, sorry. Alright, so Fernando picks up the cards, and that is going to be Caleb taking game number 1. Okie dokie, here we are for game number 2. Fernando going to be on the play as he lost round 1 to Triumph of St. Catherine. Looks like they're both good to go. Fernando starting off with Bloodstained Mire into Monastery Swiftspear. Caleb going to draw a Ponder for his turn. Down comes a Flooded Strand. Going to crack it. Most likely for a Tundra. Opens up being able to play Ponder and also like Swords to Plowshares if needed. Oh, wow, okay. It's a Tropical Island. Okay. Caleb going to cast a Ponder. That looks like Scalding Tarn, 4th Aerlingus, and Ponder. Don't think you need the 4th Aerlingus quite yet. This could be a shuffle. It depends on how highly Caleb really wants the land drop. Looks like he drew the Ponder. You can always, if he does have a fetch land, you can always shuffle the Scalding Tarn and the 4th Aerlingus away and then just use the Ponder again. There's a Roiling Vortex from Fernando. So this card is also very good against Caleb's deck. Caleb going to Force of Will, the Roiling Vortex. So Roiling Vortex is a card that stops Caleb from gaining life, and it also punishes Force of Will plays if they use the alternate casting cost. So Caleb going to draw the Scalding Tarn for his turn. Plains as a land drop, going to go into a Beans. Caleb going to draw that 4th Aerlingus. Alright, Fernando top decks Wooded Foothills, slams it onto the board immediately. Gonna crack it as well. Gonna fetch for basic mountain. So I think that Roiling Vortex was more or less a Force of Will check, because if Caleb can't answer it, I mean, the 4-color versions that lean heavily on white are just so good at removing permanents, like Leyline, but wow, is that a Maddening Hex? Okay, so Maddening Hex is an enchantment, but it's also a curse, so he can curse Caleb, and then whenever Caleb casts a spell or instant or sorcery, he has to roll a die, and then whatever he rolls, he takes that amount of damage. And it successfully resolves, so if Caleb is going to be relying on a lot of cantrips to get him out of this situation, then this could be pretty bad. I'm going to top deck a Force of Will on Caleb's turn. Going to play down the Scalding Tarn that he drew a while ago. I mean, the good news is if he can just cast an Uro, he won't need to trigger the Maddening Hex, and he also gains a little bit of life. He's also pretty close to 5 cards, so he's pretty close to escaping it as well. Alright, Caleb finds an island. I wonder if he's being cautious for wastelands. Burn really typically doesn't have wastelands because that's not its game plan. Like, it doesn't try to disrupt you in any way. It just tries to burninate you as fast as possible. Alright, here's an Uro from Caleb. Going to bring himself back up to 16. Oh, sorry, 15, because I think the fetch, the Scaling Turn wasn't counted. Draws a Terminus for the turn. Gonna put in a Flooded Strand and pass the turn back to Fernando. Fernando gonna draw for his turn. That is a Chain Lightning or Rift Bolts. Alright, here's a Lava Spike from Fernando. Brings Caleb down to 12. Gonna trigger the Monastery Swiftspear. There's a second Lava Spike. Brings Caleb down to 9. Makes Monastery Swiftspear a 3/4. Does he have another one? Oh, does he have another one? Oh, okay, so he drew the Chain Lightning instead of Rift Bolt. Brings Caleb down to 6. This Monastery Swiftspear looking huge at 4/5. Caleb is still representing a Swords to Plowshares. But no, doesn't have it. Just gonna take it, go down to 2. This is very risky. Anything but like Uro and Triumph of St. Catherine is going to cause Caleb to trigger the Maddening Hex. Now we go into the tank. So Fernando doing a really good job showcasing the powerful option in Legacy, which is Maddening Hex. Okay, so that is going to be Caleb scooping it up to Fernando in game number 2. Fernando tying it up. We are starting game number 3. Fernando managed to tie it up in the last round. And now Caleb is going to be on the play. Looks like he is content with his hand. And Fernando going to decide if he wants to keep his. They are good to go. So there's a Scalding Tarn from Caleb. Just going to pass it to Fernando. Down comes a Mountain into Goblin Guide. Going to swing, trigger. Reveals Swords to Plowshares. So not what Fernando wants to be seeing off of the top here. There's a Flooded Strand from Caleb, and just going to ship it back to Fernando. Fernando going to draw. There's a Bloodstained Mire from Fernando for his land for the turn. Alright, going to crack it. Bring himself down to 19. Probably going to find a Mountain. So the dilemma that Burn experiences is that it needs to find a lot of extra points of damage when you compare it to a Burn deck in Modern because of the land base. Wow, there's a Grafdigger's Cage from Fernando, so this will stop Uro from escaping. But it does not stop Triumph of St. Catherine. This is going to be attacking, triggering the Goblin Guide. With Goblin Guide trigger on the stack, Caleb is going to fetch Flooded Strand into Tundra. So this is going to be for Swords to Plowshare. And this is what I was talking about earlier, and it's that because we have dual lands and they're not shock lands, the Burn deck needs to find a lot of extra points of damage because players aren't damaging themselves too much from their own land base because of the efficiency of the lands in Legacy. Wow. Okay, so reveals a Triumph of St. Catherine. This is going to be a huge problem for Fernando. Caleb going to remove probably Monastery Swiftspear, so he doesn't have to deal with a plethora of spells, and then might need to block with the Triumph. So just get it out of the way as soon as possible. Going to take the 2 from Goblin Guide, go down to 15. Alright. Caleb going to draw, trigger on the stack. He's going to fetch. Probably just going to be a Tropical Island. Yep, and going to cast the Triumph of St. Catherine. Yes, this card is very, very strong in this matchup. It's probably the MVP. Alright, Caleb going to play a land for the turn. It's just probably going to swing. Nope, just going to Stonewall the Goblin Guide. Very interesting, because... Oh no, it doesn't have haste. My mistake. So, okay. Tapping 2 mana from Fernando after playing a Mountain. Looks like he's going to try to resolve, like, a Royally Vortex? No, Eidolon. Not terrible against this deck because it plays so many cantrips, but it is a Beanstalk deck, so it does utilize a lot of cards that are higher than 3 mana. Looks like there's a Wear and Tear in Caleb's hand, but just gonna attack with the Triumph of St. Catherine after playing a Scalding Tarn, bring Fernando down to 16, brings himself back up to 19. Alright, Fernando gonna draw for his turn, just to find a way to deal with this Triumph, but if he's gonna deploy multiple spells, this Eidolon is gonna hurt him way more than it's hurting Caleb. I wonder if Fernando had another option other than Eidolon, because he really needs to find a way to deal with the Triumph, and because Caleb does have that Triumph, he doesn't really need to do anything else. There's a Terminus off of the Goblin Guide trigger. Caleb gonna go down to 15. It's like at this time, like Caleb is just winning the race. He's gaining 1 point of life every turn. So unless Fernando can deal with his Triumph, this is a big problem. I wonder if the fetch lands is for white. Maybe he can fetch a white source, and he could, if he draws like Path to Exile or something, he could use it as a removal spell. Because it's very odd to see fetch lands in Legacy Burn, because you don't play things like Searing Blaze. You don't really need to trigger landfall. I'm very curious as to why there's fetch lands in Fernando's deck. Alright, Caleb going to crack the Scalding Tarn. Going to find a tropical island off of the Scalding Tarn. There's a 4th Air Lingus for 2. Caleb gonna speed up his clock here. Also gives him a way to, draw cards without needing to play cantrips through this Eidolon. Alright, creates 2 Hasty Trampler Human Knights. Wow, gonna use them to block, I guess. Triumph gonna bring Caleb back up to 20. Oh, 19? Did we miss a fetch? I think we missed a fetch again. Alright. Monarch is going to enter the game. Trigger draws Caleb a Volcanic Island at the end of his turn. Fernando going to draw. But we'll see what he can do. He does have quite a few cards in hand. He really needs to find a way to deal with this Triumph of St. Catherine. Alright, here's another 2 mana. Please don't tell me it's another Eidolon. Okay, so floating 2 mana, gonna sacrifice the 2 mountains to Fire Blast in true Megumin fashion. Looks like Caleb is considering a Force of Will, but I don't think he needs to. Like, Fernando now putting himself back on resources. He's doing a negligible amount of damage. Oh no, he's targeting the Triumph. Okay, this is a huge price to pay. But if he can deal with this Triumph, then he has an avenue of winning. But both of his creatures will trade with the 2 4th Air Lingus tokens, so Caleb will still be up. There's an Exquisite Firecraft using the 2 floating mana and the mountain. Is this going to face? Oh no, it's gonna finish off the Triumph. Ooh, that is unfortunate. So even though Fernando gets to deal with the Triumph of St. Catherine, it'll come back in a few turns. But what's even worse is that Fernando had to use 2 big spells to deal with it. So he had to use 2, like, he basically used 8 points of damage to get rid of it. There's a Leyline Binding off the top. Caleb shockingly trading both. He knows he has a Leyline Binding, so he can deal with one of them. He has a very healthy life total, so not sure why he didn't just take it. Fernando going to crack the Wooded Foothills to find another mountain. I think he should be at 8. Yeah, okay, there's a plateau in... We just got a glimpse of a plateau in Fernando's deck. So fetch lands are for a white source to probably play the removal spell, the removal spells to get rid of problematic permanents. Alright, Fernando is just gonna pass. I apologize. Looks like the camera is losing focus. But there's a Volcanic Island. We knew Caleb did have like a second Triumph in his hand. He's gonna draw for his turn, finds a Up the Beanstalk. This is probably like a nail in the coffin here. Fernando no longer has any creatures on the board. Had to lose 2 of his lands to Fire Blast and get rid of this Triumph the turn before. But he's just so low on resources, and Caleb's life total is basically unchanged from the beginning of the game. There is a Chain Lightning to Caleb. It brings him down to 16. There's a Bloodstained Mire. Going to crack it. He's just trying to thin out his deck so he stops drawing these basics. But there is a Price of Progress. Gonna deal 10 damage to Caleb, drop him down to 6. But now he has no more cards in hand, and Caleb is free to gain all of the life that he wants. Alright, Fernando's gonna pass the turn. Caleb going to draw. Finds another Swords to Plowshare. Gonna come in with this Triumph of St. Catherine. We'll note that it is not a legendary creature. So Caleb can get multiple. But he does find it off the Monarch trigger. Just gonna swing in. Fernando has a Lightning Bolt. Looks like he's bolting himself, and that's going to be Caleb taking it over Fernando in round number 1 for this 1K hosted by Chimera Gaming. Alright guys, we'll see you for round 2.